It's real authoritative music here.
First, you cross your arms. Then furrow your brow and fix the authority with a cold, hard stare. Think to yourself, I'm better than them. I know I am.
It's a good book. I enjoyed reading it. But it only complicated my problem. Made it harder than ever to decide whether I should consider a legal career.
This 12-year-old has the voice of a 40-year-old.
For 3 years now, you've helped me plan my courses. What do you think I should do?
Get out of my office.
Helping you plan your courses is my job, Bill. But you'll have to think out for yourself the factors affecting your career. Tell me, though, how did the book complicate your problem?
Well, I went down to interview Mr. Morley.
And that's when I noticed I liked better than everyone else
the
in
head of
this
the Bar
production.
Association, you know. He told me all about the opportunities and the work and what he did. And I could just see myself in his place. And so, ladies and gentlemen of the jury,
Where do I see myself in 5 years?
Seen how my
Fucking
client,
your wife.
the plaintiff,
And raising your children, driving your car, wearing your clothes, generally just taking over every aspect of your
beyond a
life.
shadow of a doubt that payment of these claims to my client is the only fair, the only just decision.
And then I saw myself in the life of the judge,
that's the life for me.
then the president, and then God.
Well, Mr. Hunter, the author doesn't seem to think too highly of law as a profession. Look here. He says
Am I ever going to
things
become
like
a judge in this sweater?
dull and of heartbreaking study. Years
Oh, yes,
of
it says
drudgery.
right here, the author thinks
So
the
many
lawyers
unhappy,
are
unsuccessful lawyers.
rat-fink
Things like that make me wonder whether I'm right in listening to Mr. Morley.
All right, I suppose if this author
That's how the
thinks
book
so,
has
no one
complicated
should
my
be a
problem.
lawyer.
Here I have the advice of two different people, and they completely disagree.
Well, Bill, you're going to have to decide whose advice you'll take.
But how?
Have you considered each of them as an authority?
No, sir, but...
You remember the method you learned in your civics class, don't you?
I mean, for
Yeah.
God's sakes, when
Why
I
not
said I've
apply
been
it
helping
here?
you for 4 years, it's
You can
because
sit
you
over there,
haven't
and when you're
left
through,
me for
we'll
a single
plan your courses.
second.
After you've judged your
I'm
authority.
desperate for a moment of peace.
Yes, by
a
judging
moment
his
alone.
authorities, Bill can decide which
You
one
and I
to
both
follow.
stink.
And he must judge well, for it's a vital problem. A problem all of us face from day to day.
I got an appointment with a flask.
There are conflicts of authority in nearly everything we read and hear. In casual conversation, on the radio, at lectures and speeches,
Why
Picture
I'm
me.
the
books,
best.
newspapers, magazines. For instance,
What was
read
that?
this.
Ah, yes, O-Toasty breakfast food.
Offhand,
I
how would you
remember when the
rate
O-Toasties
Bronco
came out of
Roos
Ireland.
as an authority on breakfast food? Or compare this headline with this. It's plain that these two newspapers have different points of view. But which is nearer the truth?
Both.
Why, the Epoch Times, of course.
How often do you find that various books do not agree? How
The
can you
Epoch
judge the
Times,
author
they'll show you how
in order to know
pedophiles are
which to
responsible
believe?
for both of these headlines.
And he's wearing a suit vest, so you know he's right.
There is a method that will help us whenever we come up
Authority.
against a conflict of authorities. And we can learn about it
Judge
by
him.
watching how Bill judges his authorities. Mr. Penner, author of The Professional Careers, and Mr. Morley, prominent lawyer. He will judge them on 3 counts. The internal
First of all,
evidence,
Mr.
the
Morley
author's
slept with
experience,
Mr. Penner's wife.
and Bill's own experience.
What
First,
penmanship.
internal evidence. That is, whatever clues to authority can be
have to
found in a
use
speech,
these categories.
magazine article, or book itself. One question is most
Eventually,
important.
we just see him
Does the author
with the
present his
pages
case
torn out
clearly
and
and
put on a
convincingly,
corkboard with yarn
recognizing
connected?
facts and interpreting them
Oh, this is
soundly?
how the Epoch Times
Based
form.
on his study of the book, Bill decides that Mr. Penner does score on this point.
That little bitch can't sue us either because we haven't named it correctly once.
Checking the book closely, Bill finds that the publisher is reputable, and the copyright date is recent. There are footnotes throughout the book, and a bibliography as well.
Which
These are
one of them
important
has cited
as signs
anyone
that the author
correct?
has consulted other authorities,
The bibliography
and
seems
appears
a
to be
bit
reliable.
biased towards citation. Apparently.
So
Reliable.
there is the internal evidence of Mr. Penner's authority. Now, what of Mr. Morley? What did he have to say?
Why, Bill, there's nothing as satisfying
Morley
as
and
being
Penner
able to
goes
work.
all the way to the top, I'm telling you.
I have so many opportunities to work for justice and
He's
equality.
got the mustache and the cigarette
Interpreting the law
dangling out of shaky
takes a lot
fingers.
of skill, you know. Of course, it's a long, hard pull to achieve any kind of success as a lawyer. But once you've come through it, you'll look back on it with pride.
Not
Yes, Bill.
happiness, but
This
pride.
is wonderful.
It blacked out,
Well,
but I thought the
internal
next line
evidence
would just
shows
be
Mr.
the guy.
Morley also
But
to be
I want to
clear
be a
and
lawyer
convincing.
now.
But does the fact that law is satisfying to him mean that it will satisfy Bill?
Well, I talked to Mr.
No,
Morley in my
what he said had
imagination, and I
almost
think he
nothing to do with
sounds like
Bill.
this.
I could also really see myself with him,
Well,
you know?
that's a question. And there's no evidence
Where do
to
I see
indicate that
myself
Mr.
in
Morley
5
has
years?
considered
Why,
all
fucking
sides.
you, Mr.
He
Morley.
was asked a question,
Taking your
and
wife's
he gave an
place.
answer. On the basis of internal
Nursing your
evidence,
children.
which authority would you choose to follow? Bill chalks one up for Mr. Penner. Now to examine the author's experience. What
I
is there
felt
in the author's background
here.
that qualifies him to speak on the topic?
After,
Bill doesn't really know anything about
what's
Mr.
the word? Both.
Here, perhaps Who's Who will help. Of course, there might be more information in the library, but here in Who's Who is some
Because he's a
interesting material.
selfish shit. He thinks he's the author because he's writing the paper. He doesn't understand his own charm.
So, Mr. Penner is a Ph.D. and a psychologist. He's a vocational guidance expert.
Wait a minute.
And on the staff of the Vocational
Penner cited
Guidance
Morley in
Institute.
his book.
That speaks
And
well.
Morley
to Mr.
cited,
Penner. So many
Jesus
people come to see
Christ.
him.
It's a
He
flat
certainly
circle.
is an authority on vocation.
Just like the
The
globe.
qualifications needed and opportunities available.
I like to
But he
call
has
it
never
the
been a lawyer
sod
himself.
globe.
So Bill makes a note that Mr. Penner speaks from observation. What about Mr. Morley's experience?
After conducting soul
He
interviews with
himself
both
has come
authors,
through the
Bob has come
years
to the
of drudgery
conclusion
of
that
which
the
Mr.
ethereal
Penner writes.
plane is the only career
He
for him.
is a lawyer, a successful one. And in his position as head of the Bar Association, he meets many other lawyers, both successful and unsuccessful.
Meeting a lot of lawyers is important to Bob because he
Well,
likes
let's
to fuck
say
as many lawyers
that
as he
Mr. Morley
can.
speaks from observation and from experience. So on the basis of the author's experience, how would you judge the authorities? Bill gives this point to Mr. Morley, and the score stands 1-1.
Oh yeah, because Morley fucked Penner's wife.
Now, what will Bill's own experience tell him about these authorities?
Penner's
That
a
is,
cuck.
Which authority seems more
Morley's still a
valid to
shit
him?
dick. But an
Mr.
authoritative
Morley's very
shit dick.
enthusiasm may have helped contribute
And so
to his
we've
success.
decided that he wants to spend the
Does
rest
Bill
of his
have
life
that
with
enthusiasm
Mr.
to help
Morley.
him overcome obstacles? Or is Bill
Guidance
more
counselor
like
just
Mr.
horrified.
cautious in his
What are
judgment
you
of
doing?
himself,
And
careful to analyze what he wants from his work?
he's just in the other side of his
Mr.
office,
Morley
if I'm
is
remembering
happy
right.
and successful in his law.
Well, after I removed his flesh and wore his skin, I
Yes,
decided
as Mr. Penner
that I
points
didn't
out,
really enjoy
many
the life
lawyers
of Mr.
are not
Penner.
successful.
The other problem is when you masturbate inside of someone's skin,
In
the
last
urethra
analysis,
holes
Bill's
don't line
own
up.
experience, his
It's like
knowledge of the
jerking off in a
subject and of
condom.
himself must guide his judgment.
Covers your body.
Just as your own knowledge and experience
Some of the
must serve as a
semen
guide when
got in
you
my
judge
pubic
authority.
hair,
Internal evidence,
so I used
author's
it
experience,
to do a ritual,
own experience.
and I am now
By these three
Mr.
standards,
Morley.
Bill has judged his authorities and come
But
to a
I
decision.
didn't have to kill him like I did Penner.
And
Hey,
what did Bill
Vicky.
decide?
Now
Well,
the
what
world
do you
has
think?
two Mr. Morleys. The
What would
father
you
Morley
decide
and the
in judging
son
these
Morley.
But this Morley is wearing Penner's skin, so you can't tell who I am.
Penner and Morley are now one.